Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take your sources, really get into them, and pull out the key info, those aha moments, so you can get up to speed fast.
Yeah.
So today we're looking at a relationship that, well, it shifted really dramatically, almost seemed like overnight. It's Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
Right. And the source we're working from here is this timeline published in People magazine just yesterday, June 6th, 2025. It maps their connection, from being pretty close allies to, well, very public adversaries.
Exactly. And our mission, like always, is to walk through this timeline exactly as the article lays it out.
Yeah, we want to find those key moments that the source says really define their relationship, starting with that very public support, even working together in the administration.
All the way to this pretty intense and very public falling out.
Mm-hmm. And the context here, just based on this source, is that their friendship really seemed to cement during the 2024 campaign. That led to Musk endorsing Trump publicly.
Right. And then Trump wins, and the article says he appoints Musk to a role in his administration.
But the big turning point, the thing this source really zeroes in on, seems to be a disagreement over a spending bill. That happened in late May 2025.
And that disagreement apparently sparked this really intense online feud, the timeline details.
Exactly. And, just our standard reminder here, especially with topics that can be politically sensitive,
Yeah.
we are only presenting the information from this source material you gave us. We're not endorsing any of the viewpoints in it.
Absolutely. The goal is just to clearly lay out what this specific article says happened so you can understand its perspective on the events.
Okay. So with that framework, let's dig into this timeline. Where does the source say it all starts?
Okay, where does it begin?
Well, the article kicks off on July 13th, 2024.
Okay.
This is when, according to People, Musk went public on X, endorsing Trump.
Ah, right after the assassination attempt, wasn't it, when Trump was injured?
That's exactly what the source notes. It mentions Musk shared a video of Trump afterwards and actually quotes his post. "I fully endorse President Trump and hope for his rapid recovery."
Wow. So, right after a huge traumatic event, Musk makes this very public statement. What does the timeline show next?
It moves to August 2024. The source talks about this friendly 2-hour live stream on X between Trump and Musk.
A 2-hour live stream.
Yeah, apparently discussing things like, immigration, the economy. The article notes Trump congratulated Musk.
On what?
Well, the source suggests it was probably about Musk acquiring Twitter. And then just days later, the article says Musk posted this photo on X. It represented the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. And the source suggests this looked like him signaling, maybe he'd be open to joining the government.
Okay, so you've got the public endorsement, then these friendly public chats, and maybe a hint he's willing to serve. The connection seems to be building pretty publicly here.
Definitely seems that way, based on the source. And the timeline keeps showing this public alignment. Fast forward to October 5th, 2024.
What happened then?
The source highlights Musk actually attending a Trump rally in Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and specifically at the site of that assassination attempt. The article points out he wore a Make America Great Again cap.
A Magi at the rally.
And not only that, but in his remarks there, the source says he called himself Dark MAGA.
Dark Magi. Okay, so wearing the hat, using that specific phrase, that really does emphasize how public they were about being on the same side at this point.
Seems so. And then, of course, the election happens.
November 2024.
Right. November 6th, Trump wins. And the source says that in his victory speech, Trump gave Musk a very direct, very public shout-out.
Really? What did he say?
The article quotes Trump calling Musk a star, said, quote, "A star is born, Elon."
A star is born.
Yeah, and it didn't stop there.
No.
He also reportedly called him an amazing guy, a character, a special guy, and even, quote, a super genius.
Super genius. Wow, that's incredibly high praise from a president-elect. It sounds like more than just acknowledging support, it's like a full embrace.
It really does. And the source shows this praise turned into action very quickly. Just a few days later, November 12th, 2024.
What happened?
Trump announced Musk's appointment to co-lead the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE.
Ah, DOGE again. Who is he co-leading with?
With Vivek Ramaswamy. The timeline includes part of Trump's statement calling them, quote, two wonderful Americans who would basically clear the way for the administration to dismantle bureaucracy, cut regulations, slash spending, restructure agencies. You get the idea.
Right, the efficiency mandate.
Exactly. And the article adds a little detail. Ramaswamy actually left in January 2025,
Oh, okay.
which left Musk as the sole leader of DOGE.
So he goes from being this public supporter to actually having a job in the administration leading this key initiative. That's a really fast track, according to this timeline.
It seems very quick, yeah.
It did.
And the source shows they kept appearing together publicly, too, November 19th, 2024.
Just a week after the appointment announcement.
Right. The timeline notes Trump went down to Texas for a SpaceX Starship launch with Musk.
Okay.
And the article mentions Trump post about it on Truth Social, calling Musk and the SpaceX team, quote, great patriots.
Launching rockets together, calling them great patriots. I mean, the visuals alone suggest a really close working relationship right up at the top.
It certainly paints that picture. Then we jump into 2025. The People timeline includes Musk attending Trump's inauguration, January 20th.
Makes sense.
But the article highlights this one specific controversial moment from an inauguration event.
What was that?
It mentions a speech and a gesture Musk made that the source notes many people thought looked like a Nazi-style salute.
Oh, I think I remember hearing about that controversy.
Yeah, the source brings it up, and it also includes Musk's later comment about it on the Joe Rogan Experience, where he reportedly said he didn't, quote, see it coming.
Okay, so the source makes sure to include that controversy within this timeline of their relationship.
It does. But the public support continued after that. And it took a really visible form. The source points out that on March 11th, 2025,
What happened in March?
Trump actually had part of the White House lawn turned into a temporary Tesla showroom.
Wait, really? A showroom?
Yeah, specifically to support Musk's company. 5 Teslas displayed right there. The article quotes Trump calling them beautiful, praising the Cybertruck design as the coolest.
The coolest, okay.
And saying he'd buy one. And the timeline adds that he actually did buy one later. A red Model S, apparently worth around $80,000.
Wow. Okay, setting up a literal showroom for your friend's car company on the White House lawn and then buying one yourself? This source really hammers home how public and apparently tight this relationship had become. It seems rock solid at this point.
It definitely seemed that way, judging by the events the source lays out.
Yeah.
But this is exactly where the timeline says things take a really sharp turn.
Ah, okay. This is where it gets interesting then. After all that public closeness, the praise, the collaboration, what does the source say happened in late May?
Well, according to the article, it all came down to a policy disagreement.
Policy, not personal.
Seems like policy was the trigger, based on this account. Musk did an interview with CBS News, and in it, he publicly said he was disappointed by Trump's big tax and spending bill, the big beautiful bill, as Trump called it.
Okay, disappointed. Why?
The article reports Musk said it actually increased the budget deficit, and that it basically undermined the work his own DOGE team was trying to do on efficiency and cutting waste.
So, after all this super genius talk and the rallies and the showroom, the thing that reportedly breaks it is a disagreement about a spending bill, about the deficit.
That's what this source seems to pinpoint as the catalyst. And the timeline shows things moved incredibly fast after that public criticism. Just one day later, May 30th, 2025,
Yeah.
Musk announced he was leaving his White House job.
Just like that.
Yep. The source quotes his post on X. He reportedly thanked Trump for the, quote, opportunity to reduce wasteful spending.
Which sounds like a bit of a subtle callback to his criticism the day before, doesn't it?
It does seem that way.
Yeah.
And the article notes something interesting. They actually had a final joint press conference in the Oval Office. On that same day, he announced he was leaving.
A joint press conference as he's quitting.
Yeah, and the source mentions Musk was photographed wearing a black DOGE cap and a shirt that said, the Doge Father.
Okay, so he's leaving, but they're still appearing together. He's wearing the DOGE hat. That adds a strange layer, right, as the relationship is reportedly fracturing.
It's definitely complex, and the source is clear that Musk didn't stop criticizing the bill just because he left the administration. On June 3rd, just a few days later, the timeline notes Musk was back on X, really blasting the spending bill. Reportedly called it a, quote, disgusting abomination, massive, outrageous pork-filled, and said, quote, I can't stand it anymore.
Wow, he really went after it.
Yeah, and the article adds some important context here. It mentions the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimated this bill would add about $3.8 trillion to the national deficit.
So he's doubling down, even after leaving. And then, according to the source, it seems things got really personal really fast.
They really did. The timeline shows that just 2 days after that, June 5th, 2025, the whole thing just exploded online.
Exploded how?
The source reports they started trading insults back and forth on social media. Musk apparently ramped up his criticism of the bill, but then, the article says, he started digging up and reposting some of Trump's old posts.
Old posts? Like what?
Things like one from 2013 where Trump apparently said he was embarrassed to be a Republican, and others where, according to the source, Trump expressed views that seemed to contradict the current big, beautiful bill.
Ooh, using past tweets against someone. That's a pretty standard online tactic to show inconsistency, isn't it? How did Trump take that, according to the source?
Well, the source says Trump hit back hard on Truth Social, and he went right for Musk's businesses.
How so?
The article quotes his post saying, basically, the easiest way to save money in our budget is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts.
Whoa. Threatening to cut off federal subsidies and contracts. That's moving way beyond insults into potentially serious financial consequences.
Absolutely, a major escalation. And the source says Musk's response to that.
Yeah.
Well, it was maybe the most explosive claim in the whole feud, as reported by the article.
What did he post?
The timeline includes the quote from his ex-post, "Time to drop the really big bomb at real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files."
Yeah.
That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT.
Wow, okay. That's a huge accusation to make on a public platform.
It is, and the article notes he followed up saying the truth will come out. It also adds context that, yes, Trump had been previously linked to Jeffrey Epstein, mentioned in flight logs released earlier in 2025.
So, okay, from a policy disagreement to threatening subsidies to that, all happening incredibly fast, all out in the open online. That's what the source documents. What was the official White House line on this?
The source includes that, too. It reports the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, gave a statement to CNN. She called Musk's claims an, quote, unfortunate episode.
Unfortunate episode.
Okay. And the article quotes her basically saying Musk was, quote, unhappy with the one big, beautiful bill because it does not include the policies he wanted.
Right. So the official line seems to be framing it still around Musk just being upset about the bill's specifics. And how does the timeline end? It was published June 6th, right?
Correct. So on that day, June 6th, the source reports Trump himself commented on the whole thing to CNN.
What did he say?
He reportedly said he was, quote, not even thinking about Musk, and that he wouldn't be speaking to him, quote, for a while.
Not speaking for a while.
And then he reportedly said Musk, quote, has a problem, adding, quote, the poor guy's got a problem.
The poor guy's got a problem. Yeah, that sounds like, based on the source, a pretty clear signal the relationship is over, at least for now.
And there's one last detail in the source that really seems to seal it.
What's that?
A White House official apparently told the New York Times that Trump had decided he was going to sell that red Tesla, the one he bought back in March after the showroom event.
Selling the Tesla he bought at the White House event.
Yeah. And ABC News apparently reported he'd either sell it or maybe give it away.
Wow. That feels like a pretty symbolic final act in this rapid breakdown described by the article, doesn't it?
It really does. So if we just step back and look at this whole timeline, just based purely on this People magazine source, what really jumps out?
For me, it's the speed. I mean, the sheer velocity of the change this source describes is kind of breathtaking. You have this like incredibly public bromance almost.
Yeah.
Rallies, the super genius stuff, the government job, the car showroom, and then boom, it seems to just disintegrate into open warfare online, threats, these huge accusations.
And all apparently triggered, according to this source, by that specific policy disagreement over the spending bill.
Right. That's the fascinating part here, isn't it? How, in this account, a policy critique seems to be the thing that fractures this relationship that looked like it was built on, I don't know, personal connection, public image, maybe mutual benefit.
And it just shatters so visibly.
Which makes you wonder, doesn't it, thinking about the events just in this timeline. How much do platforms like X and Truth Social, the instant, unfiltered nature of them, how much do they accelerate these kinds of public breakups compared to how conflicts might have been handled maybe more privately in the past?
It's a great question. And connecting this back to you, the listener, this timeline, just as people laid it out, is really a stark example, isn't it? It shows how fast things can pivot in these really high-stakes relationships.
Yeah.
And understanding the specific sequence here, the endorsement, the job, the criticism, the feud as detailed in this one source, it gives you a pretty clear window into the complex dynamics of this particular alliance and its unraveling.
So, Okay, we've walked through this People magazine timeline step by step. We traced the path from Elon Musk's big public endorsement of Trump becoming part of the administration,
Mm-hmm.
through that key disagreement over the spending bill, and then into that really intense, very public online fight that followed.
Oh, we saw those specific moments the source highlighted.
Yeah.
The rallies, the super genius comment,
Yeah.
the DOGE role, that White House Tesla event,
Right.
then the criticism of the bill, the resignation, and finally that just, wow, that exchange of insults and really serious claims playing out on social media.
And if you zoom out a bit, just looking at the narrative the source presents, it really highlights how even these alliances that look incredibly solid, built on public support and maybe mutual advantage, how quickly they can devolve when real differences emerge. In this case, a major policy disagreement. And especially when those differences get aired immediately and, well, very publicly online.
So maybe here's a provocative thought for you to consider, just based on this specific account. When these powerful relationships are lived out so much in the public eye, on platforms designed for instant reaction,
Yeah.
does that very public nature, the pressure maybe, the speed, the lack of a filter, does it make those relationships inherently more brittle, more fragile, compared to conflicts that might be managed, entirely behind closed doors?
Something to think about. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the sources.